In today's video, we will be talking about the biggest losers and winners from the NFL Combine. Which players brought their stock up, which players just tanked their stock from the beginning. Let's be real. So, either way, before we get into this video, let me remind you to check out w.gg. These are my favorite energy drinks. You can see them right over here. I am always drinking one of these, once a day at least. And they're great. They're very cost-effective, just over $1 per drink. And they taste great. They taste amazing. So go check out w.gg or click the link down in the description below and you get a discount on anything you order on their website. And let's get back to the video. Let's start off with our 5 biggest losers of the week, and you know, we'll give it the bad side first. So let's go with number 1. And these aren't necessarily in order of like the biggest loser to the least biggest loser, but if that makes any sense, but like they're just the 5 I think lost some this more than others. Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders did not decide to throw at the combine, and he did decide to interview, and honestly, in my opinion, the way things went in his interviews, the way he spoke, he seemed very egotistical and confident, which overly confident. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance, and I don't believe that Shedeur Sanders is all that great. I'm still working on my quarterbacks video. I have a very unique perception of this quarterbacks class that I think is going to be rather controversial. But Shedeur Sanders, to me, I don't know that he's a first-round pick at all. Maybe even a second, especially with the attitude issues. And, you know, that's to be expected knowing who his dad is, but there is a big difference between confidence and arrogance, and that's something he's got to hold on to. I think it's going to deter teams from him. Other than the very QB-needy teams. Teams like the Giants or the Raiders or the Jets, they may be willing to take him in the second round, especially if he's there, because they just really feel like they have to. But either way, Shedeur Sanders, number 1, biggest loser of the week. Our next biggest loser is Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa. Caleb Johnson did not test particularly well. He ran slower than people thought. He, did all the things a little bit less than originally thought. And Caleb Johnson was a guy who he was pushing up the top level of that, running backs class, but he kind of fell down with this one because we thought he would test a little better than maybe he showed out, and it just kind of it just keeps this same stigma of him being a little bit of a slower runner in the same spot. He could have proven it wrong, but he just didn't do it. Caleb Johnson, I think, is still a very good running back prospect. I just think he goes from maybe at best late first round, early second round, to now he's probably at best mid second round, late second round. It's a drop for sure. So something to keep watching with him. I just think it's going to be a big difference from what he would have had before. And he's kind of, a lot of these losers, including him, are a bunch of, they lost because other people gained in front of them. That's a big part of this. So we'll talk about that more here in a minute. But yeah, Caleb Johnson's number 2. Our third loser is Gunnar Helm, tight end out of Texas. Gunnar Helm is not the biggest guy in terms of tight ends. He's about a little bit under average, and he should be more athletic than he was. His athleticism grades were terrible. Did not have a good combine at all, and not to mention he got hurt in, I believe it was the 40-yard dash drill. So that's just not a good sign, not a good thing to happen. It is what it is, though, and he's going to fall a little bit, but he was a guy who was probably seen as about the 3rd best tight end, maybe 4th in this class behind, definitely Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland, and then you could argue him 3, maybe 4 if you want to put in another guy or so. But Gunnar Helm's probably going to fall to tight end number 5 or 6 because of this, unless he does very, very good in interviews, which, I mean, wouldn't shock me if he did, but I think he's going to lose more than gain, at least out of the combine this year. Number 4, a wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka is the perfect pinnacle of he lost because a lot of others gained. He didn't test particularly well. He was a little bit slower than expected. He was a little bit, just less athletic than expected across the board, which it could be a bad day. You got to just, give that some grace. But at the same time, a lot of guys were able to do a lot better than expected, and it pushes Egbuka down. Egbuka being a guy who was expected to go in the first round, pretty much guaranteed, now pushes to, first round, okay. Late first round, okay. Second round, is he going to be available? He might be. It's kind of like one of those things. Guys like Trey Harris, they may be able to squeak in above him from Ole Miss, things like that. But Emeka Egbuka, he's a really good player. I like what I see from him. I honestly was on the hate train for him for a while. I have switched my tune on him. I think he's a very physical receiver who is willing to fight through contact, through the run game, through the passing game, all of it. Also has incredibly good hands, and the athleticism being a slot receiver like he is, I don't think it's going to be as important. So I think Egbuka could be very much fine, but it probably will drop him about 5 to 10 spots in the draft. And our last loser of the week, we got Malachi Starks, a safety out of Georgia. He tested, to be honest with you, kind of terribly. His athleticism was just not great. He was bottom tier for all the safeties who did work this week, and that's just not good, man. Malachi Starks is a playmaker. He is a game changer, and I think he can still be that at the NFL level, but the athleticism is going to make it at least concerning of, like, what are you? Because you seem like you can do all these things, but can that translate to the next level with a lack of athleticism? That's an understandable claim and something that's understandable to be concerned about. I do think he'll be fine. I think he's a unique enough talent, and his instincts will prevail over all these athleticism issues, but there's definitely some things that you can train, and he's got to train them. I mean, speed, things like that. You can't get them much faster, but you can always get a little bit. So work on those things, Malachi Starks. But overall, he went from being probably a, middle of the first round, to probably late first round pretty consistently. So I think that's not to mention the positional value for a safety is just not that high. So all that combined, Malachi Starks is a big loser from the combine. Enough of the negatives, let's get to the positives. We got some winners, and let's talk about them. Number one, not necessarily my biggest winner of the week, but a big winner in my opinion, Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers. This guy, I think he's going to rise up some boards quickly. He's a pro. He has had years of being a pro in the college spectrum, being on the cover of games and things like that. But in my opinion, Quinn Ewers might be the best arm of the draft. Not necessarily he's the strongest arm, but accuracy, precision, window throws, all on the field at the same time. Quinn Ewers might have the best bit of that. Yes, he has his share of issues, no doubt. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the class. He has his share of issues, no doubt. But when you start to weigh them against other things, I kind of am curious about, is it, worth, is his push-up a lot closer to the top than where he was originally predicted? Jackson Dart, is he better than Jackson Dart? That's a question to ask, I think. Things like that. Where does he rank around that part of the draft class for this QBs? I don't know exactly. I've got more to look at. I'm still working on this quarterbacks video, but I think I'm kind of finding my place on him. He tested well. His interviews went well. I think he is mentally a very stable prospect, and that's an important thing. I think it's especially important for quarterbacks, being that pressure goes to them. And I think Quinn Ewers is going to be able to face pressure a lot better than a lot of these guys. Our second winner, another Texas Longhorn, Matthew Golden, obviously ran the 4.29 40, one of the fastest 40s of the entire weekend, the fastest receiver on the board. And Matthew Golden went from being, a probably first-round pick to maybe the first receiver taken, not including Travis Hunter. But he could be the first receiver taken. He could be a top 10 pick at this point, and that would not shock me at all. Matthew Golden is a blazer. He's also got a decent frame on him and a really good set of hands. He's material to be enough of an X wide receiver in the NFL that I think could quantify getting him into that top 10. Probably the back end, the 7 through 10, but the top 10 would not shock me. He's a dynamic player and can do a lot of things. And, kind of talking about him and Quinn Ewers at one time, Quinn Ewers had the oblique injury all year this past year and was still able to play. So it's a positive for Quinn Ewers that he was playing through that. And he was still able to, give a productive receiver year for Matthew Golden. And Matthew Golden was able to, work around it. So I think those are really big factors into the fact of, hey, this is a good football player, a good receiver, and maybe the best one on the board, minus Travis Hunter. Flipping over to the defensive side for a second, our third biggest winner is Darian Porter. Darian Porter is a unique guy. And I mean this, I don't mean anything about this, but I love this. I love this completely. He kind of looks like a dork, but he's 6'3", 200 pounds, and ran a sub 4.4, super good 40. It may have been closer to 4.3. I'm kind of blanking right now because all these numbers are in my head. But you're talking about a guy who has not played defense for all that long, 2 years. But I love that. I kind of love how he's doing all this. The athleticism's there, and we've seen some decent production even through the lack of time. He's a subpar tackler. That's a problem. But at the same time, most of them are anymore. Most corners can't tackle in the NFL. Let's be real. It is a weaker position in terms of tackling in NFL history. And so I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal. I think Darian Porter has moved himself into a back-end first-round conversation. Athletically, ability-wise, you see the tape. A lot of it looks good. I think Darian Porter's a dang good player, and he's going to make himself some money from this combine. Another winner, lower on this list because we knew this guy was going to test out of the gym. Nick Emenwari out of South Carolina, the safety. This dude is huge. He's massive. He's 6'3", 220, 225 maybe, and he ran a sub 4.4. He's a monster. This dude is an absolute monster. He looks like a linebacker. He's running at you with the speed of a receiver. What do you want me to say? I mean, we're not surprised. We really aren't. Nicky Manwari was absolutely expected to do these things. But at the same time, just seeing it happen, seeing the numbers on the paper that's official, yeah, it's pretty shocking. It's pretty impressive. I'll have to say that much. So, Nicky Manwari, his stock's rising up. And, you know, Malachi Starks down, him up. That may mean that Nicky Manwari has now entered the #1 safety in this draft conversation. I think that's very reasonable to say. And he might be a mid-first round pick at this point when he was not even fully mocked in the first round last go-around. So, that's a big deal. And our final winner of this year's draft class, it's an offensive lineman, guard Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Tate Ratledge is 6'6", 310 pounds, and ran a sub-5 second 44.97. That's impressive, man. That's a lot for a big-time guard like that. A guy who's the size that he is, the run road grader that he is, man. He will put you in the dirt. The only problem he really has is his pad level is a little high. He doesn't get down enough on his pass set reps, especially so he can get beaten, kind of toppled over because he's tall. And that center of gravity can be off balance pretty quickly with those tall guys. So, other than that, though, athletically, this guy is one of the best guards in the history of the combine, and he does it at a massive size. That's huge. A lot of guards, you know, the more athletic ones are a little bit stubbier, a little shorter, but, you know, a little bit quicker on their feet because they can move them legs. But, no, this guy is a long, striding, big guard, big athlete, really. He's a monster. That's really what he is, and he's got the mullet on him, so he's the mulleted monster of this draft. Those are our 5 winners and our 5 losers for this draft class. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Who is your biggest winner? Who is your biggest loser? Who made themselves money? Who lost themselves money? I want to know what you think down in the comments below. What I'm missing. Did I miss somebody that you think is a bigger loser than somebody I had? Either way, thank you guys for watching. Make sure y'all subscribe and hit the like button because that helps me out a ton. It doesn't cost you a single thing, and I'll see y'all in the next video.